trammels, wading in straw and rubbish to his knees. The claims which things make are corrupters of manhood, mortgages on the soul, and a drag anchor on our progress toward the empyrean. Whitefield writes, quote, "Everything I meet with seems to carry this voice with it. Go thou and preach the gospel. Be a pilgrim on earth. Have no party or certain dwelling place." My heart echoes back, "Lord Jesus, help me to do or suffer thy will. When thou seest me in danger of nestling, in pity, in tender pity, put a thorn in my nest to prevent me from it." Close quote. The loathing of capital with which our laboring classes today are growing more and more infected seems largely composed of this sound sentiment of antipathy for lives based on mere having. As an anarchist poet writes, quote, "Not by accumulating riches, but by giving away that which you have shall you become beautiful. You must undo the wrappings, not case yourself in fresh ones. Not by multiplying clothes shall you make your body sound and healthy, but rather by discarding them. For a soldier who is going on a campaign does not seek what fresh furniture he can carry on his back, but rather what he can leave behind, knowing well that every additional thing which he cannot freely use and handle is an impediment." Close quote. In short, lives based on having are less free than lives based either on doing or on being, and in the interest of action, people subject to spiritual excitement throw away possessions as so many clogs. Only those who have no private interests can follow an ideal straight away. Sloth and cowardice creep in with every dollar or guinea we have to guard. When a brother novice came to St. Francis saying, "Father, it would be a great consolation to me to own a psalter, but even supposing that our general should concede to me this indulgence, still I should like also to have your consent," Francis put him off with the exchanges of Charlemagne, Roland, and Oliver, pursuing the infidels in sweat and labor, and finally dying on the field of battle. He said, "So care not for owning books and knowledge, but care rather for works of goodness." And when some weeks later the novice came again to talk of his craving for the psalter, Francis said, "After you have got your psalter, you will crave a breviary, and after you have got your breviary, you will sit in your stall like a grand prelate, and will say to your brother, 'Hand me my breviary.'" And thenceforward he denied all such requests, saying, "A man possesses of learning only so much as comes out of him in action, and a man is a good preacher only so far as his deeds proclaim him such, for every tree is known by its fruits." Close quote. But beyond this more worthily athletic attitude involved in doing and being, there is, in the desire of not having, something profounder still, something related to that fundamental mystery of religious experience, the satisfaction found in absolute surrender to the larger power. So long as any secular safeguard is retained, so long as any residual prudential guarantee is clung to, so long the surrender is incomplete, the vital crisis is not past. Fear still stands sentinel, and mistrust of the divine obtains. We hold by two anchors, looking to God, it is true, after a fashion, but also holding by our proper machinations. In certain medical experiences we have the same critical point to overcome. A drunkard or a morphine or cocaine maniac offers himself to be cured. He appeals to the doctor to wean him from his enemy, but he dares not face blank abstinence. The tyrannical drug is still an anchor to the windward. He hides supplies of it among his clothes, arranges secretly to have it smuggled in case of need. Even so, an incompletely regenerate man still trusts in his own expedients. His money is like the sleeping potion which the chronically wakeful patient keeps beside his bed. He throws himself on God, But if he should need the other help, there it will be also. Everyone knows cases of this incomplete and ineffective desire for reform. Drunkards whom, with all their self-reproaches and resolves, one perceives to be quite unwilling seriously to contemplate never being drunk again. Really, to give up anything on which we have relied, to give it up indefinitely, for good and all, and forever, signifies one of those radical alterations of character which come under our notice in the lectures on conversion. In it, the inner man rolls over into an entirely different position of equilibrium, lives in a new center of energy from this time on, and the turning point and hinge of all such operations seems usually to involve the sincere acceptance of certain nakedness and destitutions. Accordingly, throughout the annals of the saintly life, we find this ever-recurring note: fling yourself upon God's providence without making any reserve whatever. Take no thought for the morrow. Sell all you have and give it to the poor. Only when the sacrifice is ruthless and reckless will the higher safety really arrive. As a concrete example, let me read a page from the biography of Antoinette Bourignon, a good woman, much persecuted in her day by both Protestants and Catholics, because she would not take her religion at second hand. When a young girl in her father's house, quote, she spent whole nights in prayer, oft repeating, "Lord, what wilt thou have me to do?" And being one night in a most profound penitence, she said from the bottom of her heart, "O my Lord, what must I do to please thee? For I have nobody to teach me. Speak to my soul, and it will hear thee." At that instant she heard, as if another had spoke within her, "Forsake all earthly things. Separate thyself from the love of the creatures. Deny thyself." She was quite astonished, not understanding this language, and mused long on these 3 points, thinking how she could fulfill them. She thought she could not live without earthly things, nor without loving the creatures, nor without loving herself. Yet she said, "By the grace, I will do it, Lord." But when she would perform her promise, she knew not where to begin. Having thought on the religious in monasteries, that they forsook all earthly things by being shut up in a cloister, and the love of themselves by subjecting of their wills, she asked leave of her father to enter into a cloister of the barefoot Carmelites, but he would not permit it, saying he would rather see her laid in a grave. This seemed to her a great cruelty, for she thought to find in the cloister the true Christians she had been seeking. But she found afterwards that he knew the cloisters better than she, for after he had forbidden her, he told her he would never permit her to be a religious, nor give away any money to enter there. Yet she went to Father Laurens, the director, and offered to serve in the monastery and work hard for her bread, and be content with little if he would receive her. At which he smiled and said, "That cannot be. We must have money to build. We take no maids without money. You must find the way to get it, else there is no entry here." This astonished her greatly, and she was thereby undeceived as to the cloisters, resolving to forsake all company and live alone till it should please God to show her what she ought to do and whither to go. She asked always, earnestly, "When shall I be perfectly thine, O my God?" And she thought he still answered her, "When thou shalt no longer possess anything, and shalt die to thyself." "And where shall I do that, Lord?" He answered her, "In the desert." This made so strong an impression on her soul that she aspired after this, but being a maid of 18 years only, she was afraid of unlucky chances, and was never used to travel, and knew no way. She laid aside all these doubts and said, "Lord, thou wilt guide me how and where it shall please thee. It is for thee that I do it. I will lay aside my habit of a maid, and I will take that of a hermit, that I may pass unknown." Having then secretly made ready this habit, while her parents thought to have married her, her father having promised her to a rich French merchant.